Good morning. It's Sunday, February 22nd. Thanks for joining us for News 8 this week. Iowa Senator Joni Ernst is serving her second term in office, but she's not running for re-election. Now there's about half a dozen candidates vying for her seat, 3 Republicans and 3 Democrats. But Senator Joni Ernst has endorsed Republican Congresswoman Ashley Hinson. This week she joined us in studio to talk about her race for Senate and why she says she's the best pick for the job.
All right, well, Ashley Hinson, thank you so much for joining us today.
Of course, Maddie. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be a guest in your studio.
Of course. All right, so, before stepping into public office, we were just talking, you spent a lot of time as a reporter at the ABC affiliate in Cedar Rapids.
Yes.
So, how did that experience, your time as a journalist, influence your decision to get into politics, and how does that influence your political stances today?
Yeah. Well, I think first and foremost, being a journalist before I got into politics taught me how to listen. It taught me how to hear what was going on in people's lives, the good, the bad, the ugly. And I got to see in the political sphere what worked really, really well and also what didn't. I covered the flood of 2008, which was a devastating time for our viewing area, but also for our state. A lot of damage and a lot of really bad stories came out of that. And I had to say that I was inspired covering our local politicians. They did work very well together to come up with some solutions coming out of that, but I also saw how government was failing in some ways. So I think that's where being a journalist really helped me, and at the heart of what I like to do, it's to tell people's stories. Some of the best ideas I've had have come now from talking to people at the meat counter at the grocery store, and instead of putting together a story, I put together a piece of legislation to solve a problem. So there are a lot of synergies between being a journalist and being a politician, and I try to let that guide a lot of the work that I do for Iowans in Washington.
That work you've done in the Iowa House and your current term as a representative. So tell me, what are some of your proudest moments there and what you might go back and do differently?
Yeah. Well, I'm very proud of the work we've done to help support working families, to help support veterans, to help support moms. We have been laser focused again on the feedback that I'm getting directly from Iowans right now in my current 22 county district, but hopefully statewide going forward. I've delivered on veterans' mental health care. We had a veteran here in Iowa from the Quad Cities actually who took his own life after he was denied treatment at the VA. I'm very pleased that a bill in his honor was one of my first pieces of legislation signed into law, the Sergeant Brandon Ketchum Veterans Mental Health Act. We're providing better treatment for our veterans because of the work I've done. I've been able to deliver solutions for rural health care. The maternal delivery units in our state are very, very lacking in some places, and so I've been able to secure targeted investments for maternal health care, surgical centers, infrastructure. So all of those things are designed to make life more easy for Iowans, and which is what I'm laser focused on, especially right now where we're hearing a lot about how do we make life more affordable for people. So that's what I'm going to be laser focused on as Iowa's next U.S. Senator, making sure that we're delivering on lower health care premiums, lower costs at the pump, lower costs for energy, lower costs for food, and then returning more tax dollars back to Iowans every chance we get.
You still have a competitor in the Republican primary, but you did get that endorsement from President Trump. So, why would you tell voters to vote for you instead of your competitor?
Yeah. Well, I've been laser focused on solving Iowans' problems and telling Iowans' stories for the past 5 years in Congress, and again 4 years before. I have a proven track record of delivering. I'm proud to have that endorsement. I think it's important that the president knows he has someone who can work with him and work with others in Congress and eventually in the U.S. Senate to make sure we're getting that job done on what we ran on in 2024. I think we need to continue that work, and I've proven that I can deliver that work for Iowans. I've also proven that I can solve Iowans' problems, whether it comes to the IRS, Social Security, veterans benefits. My office is a customer service operation, and I plan on taking that same approach to my office in the U.S. Senate as well.
There's a lot that's going on at the federal level, and you're very well aware. There's the healthcare issues, the immigration enforcement, and spending battles like what's going on right now with the Department of Homeland Security. Yeah. How do your priorities in Iowa translate to these big national issues?
Yeah. Well, my goal has always been to make Washington, D.C. run a lot more like the state of Iowa because we are fiscally responsible. We solve problems in a very common sense way, and common sense over crazy has always been kind of my approach, no matter who has the gavel and no matter who's in the White House. And so that is my approach to governing in Washington, D.C. And again, when I come back home and hear directly from Iowans, it's about hearing what's on their minds and figuring out what's the solution in Washington, D.C., not the other way around. So I think that's my approach. Through some of these funding fights, I'm proud of what we've been able to deliver. Actually, 96% of government funding as of right now is actually done. I serve on the Appropriations Committee, so we've been able to cut spending where appropriate, peel back those layers of the onion, get rid of the waste, fraud, and abuse wherever possible, but still make really good targeted investments in our state. As I said, in healthcare, infrastructure, public safety, all of these things that matter to the everyday Iowan, a family just like mine, right? I think about my boys are teenagers, 13 and almost 15, and I think about what it takes to, put food on the table, get the text, Mom, I need you to put money in my lunch account today. They just are in eating mode all the time because they're teenagers, but I think about those conversations you have, and then you're talking about your bills after they go to bed at night and trying to make sure everything's working and you can just get by as a family. So that's what I'm really focused on. Again, no matter who's in power and no matter what kind of fight is playing out in Washington, D.C.
The race changed up a lot a few months ago when Senator Joni Ernst pulled out her bid for re-election. So what was it that made you want to step in and take on that role?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, again, it's about making sure that somebody is there to solve Iowans' problems, and I think I'm well suited to do that because I am a mom, and my mom always used to say this: if you want something done, give it to a busy mom. You can get a lot of things done if you know exactly how to tackle problems, and being a mom, I feel like, really prepares you to tackle a lot of things, and sometimes, let's be honest, dealing with Congress is a lot like dealing with teenagers. So I think I'm very well equipped. I want to say thank you to Senator Ernst for her great service. She's not done yet, obviously, finishing out her term, and I have some big combat boots to fill in taking on this race and hopefully serving in next in the U.S. Senate. But I think about what's at stake for our country and the path we've started down. We're fixing 4 years of bad policy right now, and as I said, peeling back the layers of this onion, look at the waste, fraud, and abuse we've uncovered in places like Minnesota and California. This is hundreds of billions of dollars of taxpayer money just gone out the door without any accountability. And the last 4 years, we're kind of an auto pen for that. I want to see that stop, and I want to see accountability back. Iowans really want someone who's focused on protecting taxpayers, making sure we're standing up for our rural communities and rural America. And at the heart of it, we all want safe and secure communities, and those continue to be my priorities, and hopefully will be my priorities in the U.S. Senate.
What do you expect the big differences to be between being a representative in the House versus being a senator? What do you hope to accomplish there?
Yeah. Well, I think I have a lot of work that I want to continue to focus on, right? I focus on childcare access, for example. That is a statewide issue. I'm certainly focused on it, laser focused on it in my congressional district, but I think about affordability and access. How can we continue to make it something that we support the workforce behind the workforce? That's an economic development issue, and that's also a very important family issue. Making sure, again, mental health, brain health, as we want to call it, right? That's an issue that affects so many families, making sure that access point is there and the federal government is a good partner there, but that we're also working with our states to make sure we're delivering that care in an effective and efficient manner. Making sure we're protecting programs like Social Security and Medicare. You talk about the fraud in some of these programs, making sure that benefits are actually going to people who should be getting them. That is a huge important part of what we need to be doing for oversight in the next few years. And then, speaking of oversight, there had been autopilot programs that had just been funded over and over and over again without any accountability. That's a multi-year project, is what I would say, because the ballooning federal government had gotten so out of control. We've done a lot to cut the size and scope, but there is more to do there. So I think as I look about scaling up from my congressional district to statewide, taking those priorities and continuing to tell Iowan stories, again, Iowans' ideas are the best ideas, and it's why we need to make Washington, D.C. run more like Iowa and not the other way around.
What's your plan for working with your potential peers in the Senate, especially Senator Grassley?
Yeah. Well, I hope to learn a lot from Senator Grassley. I'm proud to have his endorsement as well as that of Senator Ernst. So I look forward to serving alongside our senior senator. And you look at what he's been able to accomplish for Iowans. He has been a problem solver for me and my family. And I have the pleasure of serving as Senator Grassley and, more importantly, Mrs. Grassley's congresswoman. So I've had a very high standard of service to them. And I look forward to working alongside him to continue to solve Iowans' problems.
All right, well, Representative Ashley Hinson, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Maddie.
Coming up in about 7 minutes, we'll get an update from Iowa Congresswoman Miller-Meeks on the funding fight happening in Congress, tariffs, and E15. We hope you're enjoying your Sunday morning. Let's get you ready for the rest of the day and the week ahead with your accurate forecast. Welcome back. There's always so much to talk about when it comes to politics, and more importantly, how those issues affect us right here at home. This week, we caught up with Congresswoman Miller-Meeks to talk about a range of issues from the ongoing DHS funding debate to the future of E15. So I think I want to start with the news of the day, or at least one of the big pieces of news of the day, and that was that the Democrats have sent a proposal, sort of a counter-proposal on this DHS funding to the White House, to Republicans. I know this seems to be sort of in the Senate's court right now, but can you give us any insight as to what that looks like, and does that move us closer to ending the shutdown?
I hope I could. I actually, started looking for news about what was entailed in this counter proposal, and so yet to see what's in the counter proposal. Certainly, the Republicans are okay with body cameras. As a matter of fact, we funded for the use of body cameras by ICE and Customs and Border Protection. And if you look at history, history will indicate that it actually benefits law enforcement when they're wearing body cameras. Almost always they're vindicated in what their actions were. So we would be supportive of body cameras, not supportive of judicial warrants. I mean, people who are here illegal, who already have criminal, convictions, that shouldn't require a warrant then to remove those people, especially if they're already in a facility locked up. So I think there's vast support for deportations of especially violent criminal illegal immigrants. And I think people recall that 77 million Americans voted for President Trump. And one of the prime things he talked about was securing the border and deporting especially violent criminal illegal aliens. So what the counter proposal is, I've yet to see that. But I do think that it's important to also acknowledge that ICE was pre-funded, if you will, or Customs and Border Protection, Homeland Security. The bulk of it was pre-funded in the Working Families Tax Cut. So I've mentioned that this hurts the American people. How does it hurt the American people? The agencies most affected are TSA, which affects anybody who's traveling or can. It affects Coast Guard, which, as we know, our Coast Guard is very important for activities, especially if there is illegal trafficking, whether drugs or human trafficking, as well as rescues out in sea, and then FEMA. And we've had two big, huge blizzards or snowstorms that impacted large swaths of the United States, especially the southern United States, and those agencies will be running out of funding if this stalemate doesn't end soon.
Let's turn the corner here a little bit and talk about E15. The Iowa Corn Growers Association, Iowa Renewable Fuels Association, just today, again, calling on you to pass some sort of legislation that allows for E15. You have done a lot of work to sort of lay a foundation, kind of almost seemingly behind the scenes if you're not really in the weeds of it. But give us a sense of where we're at with this, because the president just talked about it while he was in Iowa. Yeah. It seems like we're there, but we're not getting there at all.
We are actively working. We have been working We were almost successful several times. We finally thought we had it again recently after a lot of consideration and conversations between the oil and gas industry, the larger refiners, and then the renewable fuel or biofuel supporters. And that derailed because members felt that the small refineries weren't being considered or weren't being addressed. So we have an E15 Domestic Energy Council. We have met several times. We're going to meet again this week, even though we're back in our districts, because we're trying to get this through and done with an acknowledgement of all of the players that are impacted by year-round E15. Farmers just want the marketplace. And so we know that that the marketplace, that with sustainable aviation fuel and with marine fuel, and I've got a bill on marine fuel, biofuels for marine vehicles, that it's very important to have that additional market in order to sell crops. So we are so much more productive and efficient with less input, less fertilizer, less pesticide, less fungicide, less water. We're so much efficient at producing in this great Iowa farmland that we need additional markets. So whether that's through trade, which we have done in the part of the Farm Bill that's passed in the Working Families Tax Cut, whether that's support for year-round E15. And again, this is an anachronistic rule through the EPA that doesn't recognize the changes in how we make ethanol. So we have E10 that's year-round, but not year-round E15. And it's just removing a regulation from the EPA. So we want to get that across the finish line, and I think we're going to be able to do it.
Well, I think you're talking to farmers all the time. Give me a sense of what you're hearing. Is this something, at least now, months into the tariffs and kind of maybe a little bit of the confusion around it, what are we seeing? What are you seeing?
So I think tariffs are always one of those things that as an economic driver or an economic issue, requires looking at how they're utilized and how long they'll be in place or duration. First and foremost, I'm going to tell you, I talked to a lot of farmers. I'm at a lot of farms, as well as Farm Bureau meetings. Farmers, of all people, have talked to me about egregious trade practices, and they need trade, and they want trade. So we have 4 years of a Biden administration that did nothing on trade. There were no new trade agreements. There was not even consideration for trade. There was no conversation around trade, nor was there anything done to stop the egregious trade practices. So farmers would tell me about currency manipulation through the Chinese Communist Party. They would tell me about grain commodities that would go over, they would be shipped, and or carcasses for meat. They would sit in the hull of a ship there for months on end, and then the Chinese Communist Party would say, they're tainted, they're soiled, we're not going to accept. So the farmer not only could not get the crop back, but also didn't get payment for the crop. So all of these practices, we know that the United States has been taken advantage of. So we want trade practices that are fair to the United States. We know we're a big market, but we also know that when it comes to farm commodities, we are some of the best producers in the world. And so the trade practices and what we did on trade market analysis in the part of the Farm Bill that's in Working Families Tax Cuts, that's very important to farmers. So farmers of all have talked to me about egregious trade practices, and they support a president who's finally willing to be able to do something about it.
Finally, this morning, 2 colleges in our area are winners of a national livestock judging contest. That's where schools from across the country compete in ranking groups of cattle, pigs, sheep, and goats. Well, this year, Black Hawk College East and Western Illinois University, well, they won the junior and senior college competitions at the National Western Stock Show in Denver. And this morning, Haley Bickelhaupt introduces us to the man who started this winning legacy 56 years ago and is now seeing it continue through 3 generations.
Whoa. Get your notebooks out, get your pencils.
A childhood stutter
Blake brought these cattle in this morning.
inspired Dan Hogue to begin judging livestock.
Some people have said when I'm on the microphone judging a livestock show, I'm just catching up from when I never talked.
as the former judging coach and a professor at Blackhawk East.
You can see that these bulls are really stout.
Talking and teaching young people to rank 4 species of animals for competition.
They really have a tremendous amount of power.
Is something that Dan does well. But his winning legacy
Dad, you want to visit?
isn't just on 50 years of students.
It has been a family evolution, to say the least.
You're going to Weisinger's tonight to look at pigs.
Mark Hogue is Dan's son, and he's a professor and the judging coach at Western.
Collegiate livestock judging, whether you're at a community college or a university, it is a sport.
A sport that brings students to Macomb from 10 states. They use quick decision-making to evaluate animals, place them, and share their reasoning with an official.
Talk about generating show cattle.
Then get ranked on how close they are to those official placings.
In college sports, there's D1, D2, D3. At the university level, there's only one division.
Mark went to Blackhawk, and his dad was his coach.
I'm not sure that I would tell everybody to go to college with their dad.
And now Mark's son Carter
Growing up with it, it's just like, oh, that's just grandpa, dad, you know, like that's just kind of what they do. But
is learning from both men. He was on Blackhawk's judging team last year, and now this year he's part of the winning team at Western.
and I'd say I've learned a lot from them over the years, and they've shaped me into who I am.
That is a culmination of a lifetime of dreams. It truly is.
A lifetime of dreams, where the talking continues.
What do we think?
And so does a legacy of ranking livestock for these programs
Dad, anything to add?
and the Hogue family.
Our life has gone full circle, and it couldn't be any better than this.
Thanks for watching this morning. Have a restful Sunday, everyone.